Welcome to the Take Your Power Back Show with Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach Kim Yater. Today's empowering program will encourage you to step into your power, to take action in your leadership, and allow your voice to be heard. Listen in today as we speak to other freedom-loving Americans that are making a positive impact in the world by standing in truth amid adversity. Learn how to take your power back in your freedom, in your personal and professional life, in technology and creativity, and in your faith. Be inspired, be encouraged, be transformed. Together, let's take your power back with our host, Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach, Kim Yater.
Good morning, good morning, good morning. Rise up, California. From the ballot box to the breadbasket, it's all connected. Patriots, welcome to the Take Your Power Back show. I'm your host, Peak Performance Master Coach Kim Yater, and today we're taking a deep dive on the Delta and the Port with our governor and state candidates and take our California back team. This past weekend, April 24th and 25th of 2026, in America's Breadbasket, San Joaquin, we made history at the Take Our California Back to a Better Future statewide summit. You see, Patriots convoyed in from the Northern California and Southern California, locking arms and standing shoulder to shoulder for election transparency, farm to fork freedom, and Maha, make America healthy again, real solutions. We have the live election safety feature demonstration, the proven election transparency model with Dr. Douglas G. Frank and Clint Curtis, Shasta County Registrar of Voters Clerk, along with governor and state candidates, the Maha Forum with amazing leaders and whistleblowers, the VIP Farm to Fork Banquet where we dined with the Stockton Farm Bureau ranchers, farmers, and our seasoned governor and state local candidates, and finally, the powerful candidate debate with breaking news on all sides. It was a tremendous success, or you might say a huge success. And the energy is still shaking the ground. But there's one experience this weekend that changed everything for the candidates who were there. And now bringing that fire straight to you, we're going to do a full, no holds barred deep dive on the Delta and Port bus tour that the governor and state candidates took with the leaders of both the Delta and the Port in Stockton, California. They saw the lifeblood of California, our water, our farms, our ports, our food supply with their own eyes. No more talking points, no more spin, just raw truth from the heart of the breadbasket. Today, the governor and state candidates who rode that bus are joining me right here to break it all down. What they saw, what shocked them, and exactly what they're going to do about it. This is the conversation that will decide the future of California. Before we bring in these bold candidates, we are committed to let me step back for a second. Before we bring in these bold candidates who are committed to taking our California back, we're going to share just a little bit of the intro video that our candidates were all a part of. And if you haven't seen the summit as of yet, I'm telling you, you want to go to takeourcaliforniaback.com. Game changer in taking our California back.
Something doesn't feel right. Across California, people are starting to question the systems meant to serve them. Our elections, our food supply, our health, our communities. It's all connected. And now, People are coming together to understand it. Leaders are stepping forward. Conversations are happening. People are listening, thinking, engaging again. Because the future of California isn't decided for the people. It's decided by them. It's time to take our California back to a better future, uniting to champion election transparency, giving power back to the people. From ballot box to breadbasket, trusted elections keep America fed. It is all connected.
It is all connected. Now, guys, I get to bring in today our powerhouse lineup. And I just want to acknowledge a couple of people, not even a couple. We were so blessed to be able to have Douglas G. Frank, world-renowned physicist, who exposes election fraud in 48 states. Clint Curtis, the Register of Voters clerk. He is the whistleblower who spoke before Congress as he was hired previously by the Bush administration to write the code to flip the vote in the machines. And now acting and sitting and making the difference as Shasta County Register of Voters clerk, which is the epicenter of election transparency. Then we were blessed by your warrior candidates. And I'm not kidding when I say warrior. These are your governor, state, and local candidates who are willing to put a stake in the ground and saying, you know what? Your vote and your voice matter. We're going to find out what the real issues are at the Delta, at the port. We want to know what the people think, and we want to bring these issues to the platform and strategize together. Did you hear me say that? Strategize together. That Delta and Port bus tour was exactly that. It was a strategizing together. I'm going to pop up a video real quick, and I want you to hear from one of our warrior media teams that was on that bus with the candidates. Let's pop that up real quick. Hang on one second. Let me go to my guy. He's amazing.
In the same room talking to each other. No cameras, no teleprompters, no handlers. Just candidates actually talking about this stuff, solving problems together. This is what democracy is supposed to look like. California, let's go. So look behind me. These are the people running for various positions in California Republican.
Is that amazing? Is that like truly amazing? These guys are absolute warriors. Here's a picture of them on the bus. Can you imagine being on that bus on a tour with leaders from the Port and the Stockton? Now, for me personally, I would have gotten pretty bus sick. I was working on the run of show and making sure that they had everything that they need so that they were ready to go. But these warriors showed up, they played full out, and they've got a lot to say. Let's bring them into the room. First up, we've got Scott Shields. Scott, welcome to the Take Your Power Back show.
Hello, Kim, and that was a great event, and I did meet some new people, but obviously there's quite a few there that I've known before, and it was a special weekend for sure.
Such an incredible weekend. Greta Solorzano, both of you running for governor, and I must say we've got Scott running as a Blue Dog Democrat, and Greta, you are running as a Republican, correct?
That's correct. And I'm all about infrastructure. So I'm delighted that we're going to be talking about this port.
So excited. Chris Bish running for Congress. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning. Hey, everybody.
Hello.
All just together.
Hello, Greta.
Firms running for governor. He is a no party preference. Good morning, Lewis.
Great to be here.
It is so great to see you. And last but not least, we're bringing in Dr. Douglas G. Frank, who was with us moderating the event all weekend long. Good morning, Doug. Doug, can you hear us loud and clear? Doug,
I don't think I've ever heard Doug muted before.
I've never heard him muted. Let's bring in Clint. Let's make sure Clint can hear us.
There I am.
There you are. Good morning, Doug. And good morning, Clint. Curtis, Clint, can you hear us okay?
How you doing?
Okay, fantastic. Awesome. Clint, I'm going to have you pull your camera down just a little bit so that we get more of you because you are, yeah, so good. Okay, I just want to say thank you all for being here today at the Take Your Power Back show.
Good to be here. Good to see you, Kim.
Silence in the room. Well, I got to say, I can imagine you guys went from a full weekend, and it was a nonstop weekend. And the way you showed up and played full out to everybody that is watching today's show, I really want you guys to take notice. We don't have all of those that were at the port in the Delta with us today, but we have those right now that they were the ones that, along with the other candidates who were on that Delta port bus ride, these guys put a stake in the ground. They are warriors. They showed up. It was not an easy weekend, but they continued to play out and they rolled with the punches. Guys, you're my kind of people. You rolled punches. Come on. I absolutely love it. Now, with that being said, I want to roll right into this next round. And, it's an important round. So candidates, at our Take Our California Back team, you knew how important it was to experience the Delta and port and speak with leaders who knew the real deal of what was happening and maybe what was not happening at the port. We learned through the Shasta County Registrar of Voter Election Transparency walkthrough, the meeting with Kern leaders and San Joaquin Farm Bureau. With all of you, we learned how powerful this learning was. I mean, this was experiential learning from the moment we went to Shasta, right? And you guys did the Register of Voters walkthrough. That was huge. Your questions, the way you showed up. Then we went to Kern County, met with leaders. Then we were back in San Joaquin, meeting with the Farm Bureau, doing press conferences, speaking out in regards to Shakir Khan not being arrested as of yet for the fraud and just the ridiculousness that was happening. So, right.
You mean
exactly.
He hadn't been sentenced yet?
Yeah, he had not been sentenced as of yet. So let's start with this. So, Doug, you and I, in moderating this event, we got to really get to know our candidates in a deeper way. And we've been moderating, these debates since the showdown. So I'm going to throw a couple questions out today. And Doug, I'm going to have you sort of piggyback on anything that I might be missing in this question. I've got a list of 10 questions that are key questions. So anything that needs to be drawn out more, Doug, you got my back. So candidates, I want you to walk our listeners through what you saw when you first stepped off the bus in the Delta. What did you find most fascinating? And what hit you the hardest? The scale of the water system, the condition of the levels, the farms, the port operations. Who'd like to go first on this panel?
Happy to, Kim.
Scott, let's see what we do.
Yeah, one thing once we stepped off and went into the meeting, I learned how much land they have there for use. And I also learned that it's a private company that owns all that. The port is not run by the government. So there's a lot of opportunity there for economic development to really help bring Stockton back out of the problems they have. I don't want to go into, we all know what the issues are in Stockton, but we met so many nice people, so many good people there in that community. And I live in Dixon, California, which is the northern part of the ag land. So I'm pretty familiar with the demographics of Stockton and San Joaquin. And there's really something going on wrong, because this is one of the wealthiest, should be one of the most wealthiest areas and most productive areas for that whole area, San Joaquin and Stockton. This is California, the most beautiful place in the world. And somebody's not leading it correctly. So maybe as governor, someone, whether it's myself or Lewis or Greta or Hilton or in the Democrats that I'm running against, that they need to focus on this area and revitalize it. I'm not sure what's wrong, but the opportunity is there. So that's what hit me right away. First, there's other things that I learned, but I don't want to take up too much time. But the main thing was the opportunity for economic alliance with the port is a big deal.
Scott, thank you. Greta Solorzano.
Greta, you're muted.
Let's get you unmuted, Greta.
Okay, there you go. So I'm following what Scott said, and I think what got me is I had this picture in my mind that I was going to see like Long Beach or Oakland Port with big cargoes and the hustling and bustling of a big port. It was very quiet. It was absolutely quiet, which got me thinking, totally underutilized. But I'm sure we're going to talk about that. But it was just the silence, the quiet that really got me. It wasn't happening. It wasn't a big port. It is a very subtle, quiet port.
Thank you, Greta. And Lewis Herms.
Well, the first thing that shocked me is foxes sleep in sulfur piles. Uh, we actually they had these huge sulfur piles there, and foxes sleep in them. And I researched it, and I guess they do that to cover their smell so they can sneak up on prey easier. So I thought that was fascinating. It's a very organized port, and the leadership seems to be very in tune, but craving to bring more business through there, and the opportunities are abound there. I have some specific ideas on how that can be done, but we'll save that for later. But I feel it almost felt like part of it was a ghost town, which was unnecessary because the layout is just ripe to do something great there.
Thank you, Lewis. And Chris Bish.
Had to unmute myself. Hi, everybody.
Hello, Chris.
What impacted me most was finding out, I knew it was navigable waters, but it's really where it's the federal impact as opposed to the state. And the things that they do need, meaning dragging the channel so we can get bigger cargo ships in, helping with the infrastructure there, that they need to increase the capacity for the rail lines. And the grade of coal that's coming out of there. I was not aware of how much commerce comes in and out of the Port of Stockton, and what we can do. Me as a federal candidate, partnering with other Congress representatives, congressmen, congresswomen in Northern California to help grow the economy, not just in Stockton, but going all the way up to, South Lake Tahoe, going into Shasta County, getting, the things that are most abundant for us. It's going to be wood, instead of getting timber from other countries. We are abundant. And right now under California, it's just on fire. I'd rather see us making money on that and getting it to market. And the Port of Stockton is key to us doing this.
Well said. Well said. So Clint Curtis, from the ballot box to the breadbasket, it's all connected. Would you tell me how that is connected?
Well, if you don't have elections that are valid and that people can trust, nothing else matters. Whether it's the breadbasket, whether it's your family, whatever laws out there, if you don't control your own elections, if you let the administrators and all these people just do what they want to do, you control nothing. And this is what you end up with.
Well said. Doug, I'm going to have you piggyback off of that.
I was with you, Kim, in the morning. We were preparing for the afternoon show, so I didn't get to go to the port. But I heard the feedback from them, and the potential is vast there. But because you and I hung out with Kenny, who is the Farm Bureau, one of the country's leading Farm Bureau people, and he was talking about how the port, if they would dredge it out and activate it, they grow more food in the breadbasket there of California than just about anywhere in the world, and the quality of the food is so high. But because they don't have a good port there, they don't have as efficient and economically viable way to distribute it. If you could make it it would be much more economically viable. It would increase the market if they could activate that port. So I think that's a critical thing. And I so love Greta, the approach she takes at looking at the state. She looks at the resources, and the fact that California has vast resources and that are being underutilized dramatically, and that's one of her strong points. She pointed that out, and then of course that confirms what Kenny was saying with the potential. Kenny was telling us the vast amount of crops that they're not even harvesting. They're letting huge numbers of the vineyards were just letting their grapes fall to the ground and rot because they don't have a viable economic way to export it. And so that would solve that. I mean, it's just think about all the economic potential that is just lying there waiting to be used. So that was my impression. The candidates came back all going, man, what a great port. How come we're not using it? And then we have a farmer sitting there who's saying, dude, we have all these crops that we want to ship, but there's really not an economical way to do it. So it's like, why aren't we using that? You taught me something, Scott. I didn't remember that the port was actually owned by private property. That's interesting. So why wouldn't the private port want to develop it? And then Christine points out so accurately that the federal government controls the waterways. And so there's a great opportunity if we'll just get our act together and work together. So that would be my reaction to all the good words I just heard.
Okay, so good. And I love how you just said, if we just got our act together and we work together. And that's what I see from this group of candidates and all those that have been participating in the Take Our California Back to a Better Future. The collaboration, they all have such incredible insight and skills, right? And so when they come together and that synergy, it's powerful. There's not one person that's going to fix this solution and create something newly. It really will take all of us. So let's move on to our next question. The leaders of the Delta and Port opened up to all of you candidates. What specific challenges did they lay out that the average California has no idea about, but desperately needs to hear? Louis, why don't we start with you?
Well, a couple things off the top of the head. So there's regulations that limit how far they can actually go down and dredge deeply. It's the limitations. The difference is what they can do and what they need to do in order to qualify for certain ships is about a foot in some cases, but they're limited based on regulation. So that's something that we can get involved in from a governor's standpoint. In addition to that, though, is a lot of what's stopping production over there and what they can do better is, as usual in California, it's overreach of environmental regulations. So I'm going to strongly work, and there's a myth out there that people think that the governor could walk in and just remove CARB, which is the California Air Resource Board. We don't have the capability to do that, but what we can do is we can restructure the board and put up legislation to do something, and we can work on some funding, so on and so forth. So I would restructure the board or help restructure the board to actually make them friendly to businesses, which is huge. And last but not least, and I've already had success doing this in Oxnard, California in 2004, I was headhunted for a company because they had trouble. They wanted to open the largest gym that was ever seen in Ventura County. And they already purchased the land for it. But the owner had a really bad relationship with the mayor and the city council. He didn't know what to do. So he hired me on. And the first thing I did is I went to this property, which is flat land, nothing on it. And I called over the mayor and the whole city council, and I explained to them to put your issues aside with the owner, because this is how valuable this would be for the city of Oxnard. And I convinced them within 25 minutes to completely change their paradigm over the last 10 years. And we ended up not only opening that club, but out of 600 clubs, it was rated the #1 club in the world out of 600 within a year and a half. So the governor would have the same influence. The governor needs to actually get involved, which the current governor doesn't, and show up on land and show people the vision on how important this is. And I think that alone could be huge on bringing in the right resources and dealing with the legislation that's holding, I mean, not the legislation, the regulation that's holding things back.
So good, so good. There's nothing like having an experience like this. Like we could read tons about the Delta and the port, right? We could have all of that information. Let me make sure everybody is muted. That needs to be muted right now. Let me mute Greta real quick. Okay, there we go. So, but when you get to feel it, taste it, touch it, experience it, it's a whole new reality. So I love that you were able to do that. Chris, why don't we come to you? Let's get you unmuted. Chris Bish for Congress.
There we go.
All right, Chris, same question for you. Would you like me to present you to that question again?
Yes.
The leaders of the Delta and Port opened up to you. What specific challenges did they lay out that the average California has no idea about, but desperately needs to hear?
You know, I think the biggest thing, it's going to be funding and getting around the environmental regulations. And a lot of that has to do with dragging the river. And that is not just within the port, but going all the way through the channel. Because, you know, they had talked to us, the optimal would be 40 feet depth to get those ships in, because we can't really widen it. But the ships that are coming in that are moving goods into California and out of California, we need that river dragged. And there is a use for what we drag out of the river, and it goes to flood protection and a lot of other opportunities in California if we can get around the regulation.
Well said, Chris. Regulation tends to hold most things back. Scott Shields, get you unmuted.
Yeah, I think Lewis and Chris hit it right on the head. And as you know, what I've been doing as a Democrat, trying to educate Democrats to move away from the social justice and environmental lens in the mentality and the indoctrination prior any collaboration with other people, such as Lewis and Kristen, Greta, myself, others that have solutions, but they don't do that yet. And so my job and my belief is, as a governor, is to make sure everybody that's in positions, and most people in government try to come in there to try to do the right thing, but then they get held by the cabal, so to speak, to do something. And that's basically the social justice. Everything's got to be seen through the environmental lens and the social justice lens first. And that's not going to work. And so this is why Lewis and Christine say this is why regulations are an overreach. We need regulations. I believe everybody here knows you want good governance and good regulation.
Sure.
You have to merge the needs of the government with the wants of the private sector. And I can see in California, it's like this. And so we need to get that gearbox together. I believe everybody that I've met in these debates with you wishes to do that. I really do, Kim. And as a Democrat here, meeting independents and Republicans, I have met some Democrats too that definitely want to do that. But the donor class has their own initiatives, and that donor class drives the regulatory and the social justice mindset, even of good people in these positions. So until we break that, it's going to be very difficult. So that's where my goal is. I would recommend any other candidates focus on, the top down of that. Lewis has been very good at saying we need bottom up. I'm in firm agreement with that, because at the local level, if there's no pressure on the legislators, then that doesn't work. But there still needs to be leadership that focuses on the real root of the problem. And the real root of the problem is exactly what I just said. So we're not going to get any collaboration for solutions from brilliant people such as Greta, and she really is really, really smart. So
Infrastructure queen.
Yeah, and so you want to surround yourself with the brightest and the best for solutions. not because of social justice or environmental lenses first. These people, many of them are very bright too, but they've just got that as their social lens first. We've got to
Yes.
change.
Well said. Well said. Scott, Greta Solorzano. Greta, we lost your image. Are you still with us?
I'm here. Can you see
Okay.
me?
No, we cannot see your beautiful face.
We can hear you loud and clear, but we can't see you,
Yeah, we
Greta.
can hear you. We can hear you loud and clear, though.
Okay. I have no idea what it is. I can see myself though. Okay. So I was actually puzzled by the fact that the director and the commissioners are so content to the level at which this port is operating. I can see this port being the hub of the inland empire. I mean, we have everything there. We have the land. We have the affordability of the land. We have the agricultural products. I mean, we have the railroads. It's just we have I-5. We have everything. But anyway, so I started to look a little bit into what was happening, and there is a misconception in there. Yes, salmon, the delta smelt could be impacted as we develop this section of land. However, one of the things that they I don't think they have dig deep enough is the fact that this is not their primary habitat. Yes, they live in the Sacramento one, but this is not their primary habitat, which allow us to actually work in that area. So I started to look at the U.S. Department of Defense, because the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers report directly to them. So as a governor, what I see that we need is a team that is going to work together between the federal government and the state government that would allow us to actually implement this modification. This port is gold. Right now we have, I don't remember correctly, but I think he said something like about less than 3,000 employees. We could have easily a 10 to 15,000 operation here. I mean, this could be the backup for Oakland Port. So there is so much to do. And yes, regulations, especially specifically the Clean Water Act, Section 4.4 is the one that is really tying our hands. But I think we have the potential. Remember, the U.S. Department of Defense and the U.S. Army Corporation of Engineers are people that are appointed to those positions. If we work with the federal government, I think we can get someplace. We need to change the Clean Water Act. We need to modify it. We need to make it work for all of us. Like Scott said, we need to make it work for all of us.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. We just had Evie pop into the back room and we lost her again. So Evie, if you're listening in, pop back in. That way we can pull you into the conversation. I think she's setting up her devices in the back end, and I'd love to pull Evie into the conversation. Before I do, Doug, let's piggyback off of that. What are your thoughts as these candidates are bringing their experience to the table?
One of the things that was particularly striking to me, and I appreciate your comment, Kim, that a lot of what we learn, you can read it from a book, you can watch it on a documentary, but when you actually experience it firsthand with your hands on, it changes your perception. And, you know, I'm up here in Oregon now, and my driver, Steven, you remember my friend Steven,
Yes,
we drove up together, and it took us hours leaving that venue, driving north up to Oregon before we were out of all those orchards and fields. The vastness, the vastness of the Central Valley and the San Joaquin Valley, and the productivity is just remarkable. How much agriculture there is. And I don't think it's sort of like, you know, you can look at pictures of Yosemite, but until you've stood under El Capitan, you just don't get how big it is. Well, it's the same way being in the valley. So I really appreciate that we held an event there. But one of the things that's so remarkable is you have all this amazing food produced in this amazingly
Oh my
healthy.
gosh, cherries, pecans, walnuts, asparagus, so much.
Beef, mutton, all the
Yes.
just amazing amount of agriculture.
Yes.
And so when you see that, the impact of that is it's very impressive. But then to realize what Kenny was saying to us, the Farm Bureau guy, he says, but we have difficulty even harvesting it here because, as Lewis pointed out and Christine, the regulations are so intense on them that they're not competitive. And so what ends up happening is, instead of Californians eating some of the best produced food in the world, having the healthiest, most magnificent diet, instead of that, because of the expense of harvesting it there, other countries can import less quality food that's less nutritious from other places, and it makes it very difficult for them to compete. So I love this idea that if you can address this in a team way with federal regulations and state regulations, if you can work with the farmers, it's shocking to me. Shouldn't Californians who live in like the breadbasket of the world, shouldn't they have the best diets and the highest quality food? It's being grown right in their backyard. But yet the regulations that are imposed on the farmers are so oppressive that a lot of times they just can't even harvest it. It's preposterous. You know, I was my last visit with Kenny and Molly there. They were our hosts. They gave me a bag of walnuts that is just, I never tasted walnuts that were so good.
I milked them. They were delicious until the next trip.
And the cherries are just, I mean, I've never had cherries that taste like that. They're just remarkable.
They actually taste like real cherries. What the way cherries should taste like.
Exactly. Yeah. So my point is, the regulations are not only harming the economic viability of the farms, which is a matter, but also the quality of the food that ends up on the table of people are directly, negatively, adversely affected by the regulations. So it's not merely an economic thing. It's also a health issue, which is why Maha was part of our emphasis at the conference there, because the people, because of the regulations, they're also damaging the diet of Californians. Dude, you're living in California, you have some of the best weather in the world. Why wouldn't you also have the best food in the world on your table?
Yeah. And so this is where the ballot box comes in. And Clint, I'm going to pull you into this part of the conversation. Let's get you unmuted again, Clint. So, I mean, we know it's all connected. We talked about that. But I mean, when we're dealing with, like Chris, we're talking legislature, how do we ensure that the people's vote and voice are going to be heard? Clint, we know all across the country, we've been dealing with election fraud. We're now in the midst of the election fraud disclosure. Now, that's not new. Once we saw what happened in 2020, that was being exposed, but the pain point, the threshold wasn't hit for people yet. They weren't ready. It was still kind of conspiracy, but people are understanding the levels of fraud on every level of the country that has tentacles that go out internationally, right? So Clint, why don't you tell us real quick, and then we're going to go on to our next question, and we'll bring EB in. We keep losing her and getting her, losing her and getting her. Hopefully we'll be able to, let me see if I can pull her on for this real quick. EB, are you there?
There she is.
All right. Okay, good. EB, hang tight. We'll bring you into the next round of questions. We're glad you're here. EB was with us at the Delta and the Port as well. So Clint, why don't you share with us, first of all, I could imagine how frustrating it was for you to see that the code that you created, right, to flip the ballots, you know, when you were hired by the Bush administration, was being used against us. It was a weapon being used against us. You know, here you are, you're not from California. You're not, right? And you're like, you know, just like I am, I'm from Boston. But here you're hearing the plights of all of these candidates. You've listened to the voice of the people as we've traveled to Kern and San Joaquin and Riverside, and all these people are reaching out to you. I want you to share with us the importance of the additional election security feature. Now, in just, 2 minutes, and before we go to our next question, why don't you just give me the lowdown of how this security feature, a trusted, well utilized model, you've had a successful election, 1+1 = 2, your numbers match, which we don't see in the elections across the country.
Almost never.
Tell me how important this is to get this system installed, or not installed, but rather utilized in every city and every county in our great state of California.
Well, it's actually very easy, because essentially all we do is we set cameras before it ever touches the machine. And the camera records the front and the back of every ballot so that the people can actually see the counts. And they can recount anything they want to. They could recount the whole election. They could recount a portion, but they see it before it ever touches the machines. So the machines can't afford to make errors. They can't afford to be manipulated. Either way you believe, you can actually stop it. So they had the problem down in Santa Clara where their machines were miscounting constantly.
Mm-hmm.
They caught it because a whistleblower would tell them, but they didn't tell the public up front. They just let it go, right? Fix on their end. This way the public knows immediately, and it's live streamed and it's recorded, and everybody can go back in and actually make sure that the votes that they voted are counted. And that pretty much sums it up, because if you can do that, you can control the machines and make sure that no one does anything. It also prevents, backfilling. So you got your votes, like 2020, everybody went to bed and Trump had won, and they woke up the next day and he had lost. And suddenly they had found all these votes. Well, you can't really do that if you're having to record every vote before you started, because it makes real questionable how you found votes if you already did all of them. So it basically shuts that down. And the best part is they don't have to give up the machines that they won't get rid of. I've always said hand counts better, but they won't get rid of the machines. They think it saves them time. So this actually will allow them to keep them, but it still gives the people the ability to do a count of their own. And that's enough to basically keep everybody good. People on camera tend to act a little better. So do machines.
So do machines. I love it. I love it. Listen, I want all of you to go to takeourcaliforniaback.com for all of our listeners. When you are at takeourcaliforniaback.com, you'll see it in the banner below. You're going to see exactly what Clint is talking about. You'll see the Shasta County Registrar of Voters walkthrough with all the governor candidates. You'll see Clint's video on the how-to and how to implement, and it is cost effective. It is simple. Do we have time before the primaries? If you're serious, you've got a tech team, 100%. That's a yes, yes, and yes. So
yes.
takeourcaliforniaback.com. Now, let's pop on over real quick to our next question. Evie, we're going to start this question with you. All right. Question 3. How did that bus tour connect the dots for you now between secure elections and secure food? Because we keep saying from the ballot box to the breadbasket, now you've seen it with your own eyes. Evie.
You're going to have to unmute, Evie.
Evie, let's get you unmuted.
There she is.
Oh, yep.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
Beautiful. All right. Thank you. So to answer your question, Kim, it really brought home the fact that we need representation in every single vote. And that means that if there is a vote that wasn't truly by the people, then we don't have true representation. The people who live here in California understand what their vote means. And that means that they can be able to get the funding that they need for infrastructure. They can get the funding that they need for the Delta, for the things that really affect them every single day. So we have to have votes that really truly are secure. That means when I, as a Californian, place my vote in to make sure that we have better water and have water for our farmers, we want to make sure that that vote is truly counted and it's not overridden by fraudulent votes. So I think that we all need to take the time to do what is being said today. hey, if you can volunteer to go watch at a poll, do so, because we need everybody involved so that our votes truly do count.
Come on, EB, come on. Lewis Herms.
Well, ultimately, elections are everything. Your free speech is controlled because of elections based on the people that you put in there. Your Second Amendment is controlled. Everything is controlled based on who the officials that are elected. Now, are they elected or are they selected? That's really what the challenge has been for, I'm going to say up to 80 years, but at least there's evidence of the last 40 years that this is what we've been dealing with. And as I'm sure Clint knows, the CIA has been manipulating elections over 42 years overseas, and they had the systems to do it. And by golly, it seems to be the exact same systems that are used here. So I've been on, many people know I've been on a 58 county election tour where I'm actually interviewing all the RVs that will see me. And I say that, I preface with that because it's been kind of weird. The last 7 I've been to, we went to 7 RV offices Monday and Tuesday, and 4 of them completely dodged us, which is actually new. And I'm concerned about that. We only have 3 left on the docket. We've already seen 55. What I will say, though, is most cases, the register of voter, in their mind, they think they're doing the right thing. They think they're doing it correctly, is what I have found. Unequivocally, they believe that. But their systems are varied. There's not a uniform system, but the one uniform system they have is whatever California does, that's what we're going to do. Now, the more questions I ask, they say, well, you know what? The voter guide is too thick. Well, it is. It's much too thick. There's much too many things in there. So there's no way they could run a proper election just by following the guide. Plus, the guide creates so many loopholes for fraud. It's crazy. So have a documentary that's coming out shortly that I think is going to blow people's mind of what I'm discovering just by having all these interviews. But and people need to know this. Everything goes back to the election. If we cannot have a free and fair election, we literally don't have a republic, we don't have a constitution, and we don't have any freedom. And that is why we must put all our effort on the elections. Last but not least, because I have to go here in a second, so I'm going to just take up probably another minute here.
Thank you, Lewis.
Child sex trafficking and child sex slavery is directly connected to election fraud.
Agree.
And it's unequivocal. I proved it in Maricopa County, Arizona. I will be proving it here in California. It's directly connected. This is why this is not something to turn our head on. And I know Doug often says there's not an appetite. Well, there's certainly not an appetite inside the judiciary. They're afraid. We have a cowardice judiciary in some cases. We have a cowardice or complicit legislature in most cases. And the leaders, many of them, are through a selection process, not an election process.
That's right.
So, yes, getting into a high position like President Trump can do something, but the micro really does fix the macro. And Scott hears me say this all the time. We must have a groundswell, we the people, to put pressure on this, because there's no appetite within the governmental structure to fix this. Correct. But I believe there is a growing swell within the people saying we're done with this, and that's on both sides of the aisle. That's about all I have.
Yes, well said. Well said. I'll tell you what. Well done. I love how, you took that Shasta County Register of Voters walkthrough that we did with all the candidates. And you said, you know what? I'm going to take personal responsibility for this. I'm going to reach out to the supervisors, the clerks. And I'll tell you what, with the momentum we've created, our teams that take our California back reached out to every Register of Voters clerk in the entire state, every supervisor in the entire state. And we had very few that showed up at this Take Our California Back to a Better Future Summit. And I do believe that with the work you're doing, the work all of you are doing to shed the spotlight on this and hold these leaders accountable, this momentum and pressure is going to move the needle. And we need to keep the pressure on and activate the people. Scott Shields, to you.
Wait, real quick. Let me say one more thing because I do have to peel out. You know I love you, Scott. But just real quick, Kim, because you touched on it.
Yes,
So,
Louis.
so it's very important to know
Mhm.
how face-to-face pounding the flesh is the difference. And we've
Yes.
We
gotten
agree.
away from it in the whole world because we're so into technology. So the first thing we did is we sent 58 certified letters, which I paid for myself, to every county ROV supervisor, so on and so forth, right? That's a lot. Then we emailed every single one of them. And then we called every single one of them. And some of them actually had faxes, and we faxed all of them. And then we called again when we're heading there, right? And then when we showed up, when we got to the 8th, 9th, or 10th, somewhere around there, suddenly it became, this guy is not going to give up. Therefore, they started to show up. And we would
Okay.
walk in and they would know my name ahead of time. They would know my face. They would open the doors up and have these conversations. So it is so important that we, the people, make the difference. By the way, not one time did I go in there as a gubernatorial candidate. I always went in from my organization, Clear Election, and somebody that's concerned about what's going on. So we must show up in person because you're right. We got barely any responses, and the only responses were kind of pushback BS responses
Sure.
when we sent out the emails and the letters. But when we started showing up over and over again, finally they're like, okay, we have to do something. And that's why I think we're going to have some success, and you're going to have a pretty powerful documentary here shortly.
Well
Thanks
done,
for letting
Louis
me take up
Herbs.
so much time, but I've got 4 more appointments I'm jumping
You
on.
go, and thank you for being with
Good
us
to
on
see you,
the
Louis.
Power Back Show. We appreciate you, Louis. We'll talk
You
to you
guys.
soon. Well done. Scott, back to you.
Yeah, and Lewis has done a great job at the
Mhm.
groundswell, and that groundswell needs to be supported by a top leader, whether it's him or
Right.
myself or anybody else. It takes a combination. Somebody like Lewis is, we call it the walking trade show. I started my walking trade show in 2024, and across independents, Democrats, Republicans. And what I identified as the MAGA movement had a lot of Democrats, had a lot of independents, a lot of it in there. 80 million people voted for Trump. That wasn't all Republicans. There aren't that many registered, right? Or many of them moved over. So the Democratic Party is being held by, like I said before, the social justice and environmental movement, which I'm going to really get to. And most of you know here because I wrote a book on it. And you know I've been battling the Chinese Communist Party in terms of battling, educating America on the real threat of it since 2018. There's some articles that are going to be published in DC that I've written in May to help my candidacy. It's going to be pretty important. This magazine is seen by Trump and the administration, and they respect it. And the founders wanted me to come in and ghostwrite, and I have been ghostwriting for them under other people. But this one, I'm going to put my name on this category here. And it's because of you, Kim. You've shed the light and give me the opportunity to come out a little bit, deciding whether I want to come out a lot. This is the politics. As a Democrat, it's not easy to do what I'm doing. It's very difficult. But I have found so many Democrats in the walking trade show that believe the Democratic Party is lost in America as well as California. So going back to the question, the key to me was last night, and I'm well aware of a lot of what's going on. Like I said, I've written a book on it, right? But last night I got an email from, or my wife did, Stephanie, from somebody that just launched a documentary called China's Stealth Invasion. And I've met him. He's a good friend of Stephanie, who you know, Kim, and they do a lot of exposure here on what's going on, and it's really, really good because it really goes back to what I already knew, which is the gentleman that was brought in next to Xi, President Xi, I don't know, Prime Minister Xi, whatever somebody wants to call him, in China. He was brought in because he came to America and went back, and like anybody that's loyal, wants to move things up and get a promotion and get to the top and be right next to the top person. A very talented guy. He wrote a book called America Against America. And it really identifies, and this is Chinese. He put it out. This was a Chinese manual. You'll see this in the documentary. We knew about it. I knew about it. But it's very powerful for people don't know about it, especially our administration. You get caught up in a lot of things, right? And the financial aspect of Republicans in China. And we even saw that in what I've seen with Nunes and coming out of Central Valley and failing miserably, and never speaking out about China buying property and agriculture land in San Joaquin. Yet he's the CEO of Truth. That's why I can't be a Republican. Okay, I can't be a Republican because maybe my traditional values are there, my spirituality is in a lot of this, but the reality is our leadership won't talk like this, won't talk like Hearns. Okay, and that's why he's probably an independent. So I'm not blasting Democrat or Republican candidates, especially in California. I've had the privilege of being around a lot of them because of you, and they're fighting hard. But the donor class is not. And that's even, when have you heard Nunes, who comes from Central Valley, who was in the Senate or Congress at a high level, ever speak about the Chinese buying property in San Joaquin? He hasn't. He hasn't stopped it. And Pence hasn't done it in Indiana, where I've been. I grew up in Illinois. And so anyway,
let me pop in here real quick. So connect those dots, everything you're sharing right now, between the secure elections and secure food. I'm going to give you 1 minute.
This is what I'm getting to. The America Against America, the environmental movement of regulatory, and the elections and the election fraud is paid for by the Chinese Communist Party.
Boom.
Okay? And a big part of the Russian, there's a lot of spokes on the Russian-Ukraine war on why it happened, but one of them was definitely, and I know this space well, and I go back a long way, and I've been around the world. So Putin, when you blame Putin, Russia hoax, okay, the Russian election fraud on Putin, and as a nationalist Russian, when he knows it's the CCP in China that's tied to our Democratic Party that's doing it, okay, this is a big problem. Big problem. This wasn't Scott Shields or somebody in the neighborhood fixing these elections. This was Brennan, Clinton, Comey, Obama, all of them tied together to do this or okay it, right? Or not stop it. And like Lewis said, this has been going on a long time in certain nations. And but what people don't realize is in the 50s, the first election fraud of the modern times was the KGB stealing the election in Iran and putting Mazadarik in there. And that's important to understand. And this is very important to understand. I had an interview with the Persian gentleman who does a podcast after this, and he got it. He already knew a little bit.
Yes.
He already knew a little bit about this. But the point is, the CIA for years was, if they did fix elections, it was to counter KGB and communist funded election fraud and CCP, Chinese communist election fraud. The problem with America, what happened is we ended up joining the Chinese Communist Party to fix America's elections against us. That's the reality. And that's just where we sit. And so Democrats, if you're blind to it, you need to wake up. Even the administrative level, they've got you indoctrinated. And this movie's really good. It's a powerful documentary. And I've met Frank before, and I don't plug things. I don't want to plug. There's no financial deal here, but this is it just came out.
And Scott, the name of the movie again is?
The movie, it's on YouTube. It's called China Stealth Invasion.
Stealth Invasion.
And the reason I got the text is he didn't even know I was really running for governor, I don't believe. And Stephanie sent this event to him, in my
Yes.
speech there.
Yes.
And he said, "Hey, we just finished this documentary, by the way. You might want Scott to look at it." Well, I watched it last night. I knew a lot. And when you see the people in there, these are top. This is really credentialed well. I know people that are in
Yes.
that interview.
Yes.
And so
Excellent.
it's very, very important. So on election fraud, people need to understand that the CCP is very slick about how they do it. They do it with money, they do it with ideology, and they do it with social justice and environmental engineering, playing on the pains of people, which are real. The pains of people. I'm a Democrat. I'm an environmentalist.
Scott, I'm going to hold you right there. And then we're going to open up. But that is
sorry to go too long, folks. Sorry to go too long. But
what you delivered right now is potent. It is so key that we understand the root, because if you don't get to the root of the problem, nothing will ever get solved. So I love that you brought that up, Scott. Christine Bish, let's piggyback.
I want to talk about what President Trump did. It was December 24th, 2025. And what he did was he changed how we handle the mail-in ballots.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people miss this, is they changed the way we process the mail, and where I'm not a big fan of centralizing anything. But what they did was, or President Trump and the board that controls the United States Postal Service, is they changed the time for mail processing. So with mail-in ballots in this primary coming up, your ballot will be considered postmarked when it's actually processed at the facility, not when it's dropped in the box. Now, is this an end-all be-all or to fix our elections? No, but it makes a big difference for that last-minute ballot stuffing. And I can see the smirk on Dr. Frank's face. He knows exactly what I'm talking about. So what it does is it's when it's actually processed at the facility, not when it's dropped in. And that's going to slow a lot of this last-minute ballot stuffing. But it puts more onus on the voters. If you're going to mail in your ballot, you better send it in 3 or 4 days in advance, because dropping it in the mailbox is no longer considered postmarked.
Wow. Doug Frank, your take on that?
I met Chris 5 years ago, and she's been all over this election stuff. I enjoy working with her on this stuff, and she's running for a federal office, which is good because we need reform at the federal level. But she knows that I'm working at the local level. But last night I was speaking in Medford, Oregon, Grants Pass. And there was a lady in the audience, and she is not yet a citizen. She is from Canada, and she is right now studying the Constitution so that she can pass the test so that she can become a citizen. And it's so fun to see people who are, we grow up in America and we don't know our own Constitution, but people come in, they study the Constitution. But she said something really interesting. She says she doesn't understand. She's from Canada, and in Canada, they vote on election day in person with an ID, and they count the ballots by hand, and they report it that night. And she says, "What's wrong with you, you American people?" She said, "The system you use is so retarded." Why? Those were her words, and it's exactly what Scott was saying, that our culture has been indoctrinated to this extent that they think certain things, and our clerks have been indoctrinated. Oh, there's no way we could run elections on single days anymore. But I got to tell you, it's a cultural thing as well. I've traveled the country. I'm in 48 states. In Alabama, 90% of people vote on election day in person. It's not a big deal. It's a cultural indoctrination that we've been subjected to, which is what Scott was referring to. So, but a lot of that's getting cleaned up. By the way, there's something else you might want to come back to later. Did you notice that the Supreme Court last night ruled that they're going to undo all the racial redistricting maps in the country. That's a big deal. But the reason I brought it up and the reason it's connected to this is because
Yes.
it's all part of that indoctrination. It's the social justice lens. It's the environmental lens. And all those things have forced us into this kind of retarded system, to quote my Canadian friend.
Call it tribalism. They want to divide. They want people divided.
Yes.
Like
I just think it's all connected. Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to jump in on the California Republican Party because this is a fight with the California GOP, and this is my fight with the California GOP. So no, I'm not their golden-haired child. But,
say that again.
Yeah. We've heard President Trump, he wants us to get back to a traditional paper ballot. But when we have the chair of the California Republican Party coming out and saying just with 1,500 delegates, and usually it's only 1,000 that even show up, that we can't possibly count those ballots by doing a paper count, and they're insisting on using machines, and there's
talking about you're talking about the party elections. You're not talking about the
party
state
elections,
yes.
Right? And then at our not the last convention, but the one that was in Sacramento, there were videos popped up and photographs where it said, users, unknown users detected. So the vote just at the party level, and the videos are hysterical, but our votes for the California Republican Party are not legitimate, if you will.
Nice.
So as Republicans, we're not even leading by example. And that is a huge problem when they refuse to accept that there are problems with computers. We know this. If you've ever had to reboot your phone, reboot your computer, or even fix your tax return because you filed it online, there is a problem. And talking about tax returns, I just want to segue over to this with the mail-in ballots.
30 seconds, Chris.
Okay, we had Republicans vote for mail-in ballots. But the point I want to make is, the IRS used to send out those 1040 EZ forms or 1040 forms, and it wasn't cost effective. Why in California are we mailing out ballots to people who aren't even legitimately on the rolls anymore? But if the IRS isn't sending out forms, then why should California? Because it's not cost effective.
And Curtis, over to you. Chris mentioned unknown users detected. I'm sure the Clint Curtis alarms went ding, 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 ding. What are your thoughts on this conversation, Clint?
Yeah, if you ever see unknown user pop up, it's time to get off the system.
Yeah.
Because the system's broken. You don't know what's in there. You don't know the intrusion. The fact that it pops up unknown user at all, it never has to. People can be in there without, coming in that way. So the fact that they're coming in that way is definitely bad. But a good programmer, a good hacker, they're in there anyway. The systems are
correct.
One correction I wanted to make on the mail-in, though, is that in Shasta anyway, I don't know if this happens everywhere, but in Shasta, if they are on the last day for their ballot, they can go to the post office and they will hand stamp it so that they know it came in on the last day, just like tax day, right? And so they hand stamp them. And in Shasta, usually they send them down to Sacramento and then they come back up. But all the ballots, they actually just store for us and we come pick them up. So they never have that 2-day stall in. And I would imagine you can do that anywhere, right? You just have to ask the people who do the post office to store them as opposed to send them on down the truck.
Clint, we're talking about cost effective. I know that Shasta County's got about 70,000 voters or so in your rolls there. Do you have an estimate? What does it cost you for every ballot that you mail out? And it's not just the cost of the printing and putting it in envelopes, but also it's got to be stamped and it's got to be mailed out. And I learned yesterday, because I'm up here in a county in Oregon, where 20% of the ballots that they mailed out, because they use an all-mail system, 20% of the ballots were returned. as undeliverable, and they pay for that postage too. So,
Right.
and if you think about that, that means 40% of your mail of your cost, your direct cost of postage, is being wasted. But do you have a feeling? In Colorado, we were estimating it to be like between $8 and $10 a ballot. Do you have a feeling what it is in California per ballot?
It costs us, for the mailing and the printing and everything, about $250,000 on every election that goes out. So for those 70,000 people, we spend $250,000.
And if 20% of that, which you and I have looked at your rolls before, if 20% of that is a waste, that's $50,000 every election that you're throwing away. And so this system isn't merely opening you up to fraud because you lose chain of custody of the ballots, but it's also very wasteful.
Right. It's worse than that, because every time we get one back, we have to try and mail it a second time to make sure it wasn't returned improperly.
Oh, wow. Yeah. And it was returned. So actually it's 4 times you're paying for that postage. Oh, wow. That's even worse.
Then they go on a list where we actually have to send out a postcard to them afterwards to try and do it again. So there's a lot of attempts to get you your ballot in California.
Wow.
Maybe too many? I don't know.
Wow. Well, let's do this. Let's pop on over to, I'm going to go back up to you, Greta, real quick. Now, Greta, I'm going to move into the next question, but I want you to finish off this question with, how did that port connect the dots for you between secure elections and secure food? So touch on that, and then move into our next question of, was there one moment on the tour where you looked at each other and said, this is why we're running. California's future literally flows through here, the breadbasket.
Absolutely. This was fantastic. But I want to follow on the first question. And I want to say, Scott, that is brilliant. Americans against Americans. That is the saddest thing in the whole wide world, but it's so, so true. So votes are extremely important, because we need to have people that represent us, that represents our interests. The fact that social and environmental policies are tying our hands is ridiculous. The fact that this port is now being utilized to the full potential is ridiculous. So we need people that represent us, that allow us to use our resources. I say this every single day. California is extremely rich. God gave us a lot of blessings. We have everything we need, and there should never be a reason why we have to be importing food from somewhere else, crude oil from somewhere else. We do have the resources. We can do it. We do not have any need to be under somebody else's thumb. We do have the power. We do have the resources. So we need people that represent us. We need people who has our interests at hand. So I have to be leaving after this, but I do want to say this was an amazing event. Everything from the Maha to the port. And one of the resources, by the way, we haven't talked at all about, is that with this area being the food basket of America, there is a lot of waste. Guess what we can do with that waste? Biofuel. We have the land, we have the port. Why aren't we exploring this idea of biofuel in that area? There is so much to do here. There is so much potential. We can get this entire section area out of poverty and really create plenty of jobs for an amazing economic bloom there. It's
So
just
good.
amazing. So
So
thank
good.
you for having us.
Greta, why don't you, because I know you've got to pop off right now. So why don't you tell us real quick one solution that you're going to bring to the breadbasket of America to ensure that we have water and to ensure that we have healthy food?
I think the most important thing is to provide water to the farmers. we need to invest in that infrastructure. We need to work with these people at the federal and local government to make sure that we are able to develop that infrastructure. We do have the water in California. We do get enough water. We get about 200 million acre feet of water a year. We only collect less than 25% of that. We can create more reservoirs to capture that water. And by the way, we are right next to the coast. We can put a couple of desalination plants. The only thing we need to ensure that the farmer community is well taken care of would be an extra 5 to 10 million acre feet of water. We can easily do that. So just investing a little bit of dollars into our infrastructure and accountability, obviously, because we have invested, but nothing is coming, it's getting done. So accountability, of course, ending corruption, of course. But if we invest in that, we will have the water that the farmers need. Yes, that's all I have.
Greta, thank you so much. I just appreciate you being here and being with us on every event we've had, playing full out, showing up, and then bringing your gifting to the table, your infrastructure. So we appreciate you so much, Greta Solorzano, running for the governor of the great state of California.
Thank you. Thank you.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we're going to actually go right back to you, Evie. So let's go to that question that I just asked Greta. So was there one moment on the tour where you looked at each other and said, this is why we're running? California's future literally flows through here. And then with that, maybe what's one solution that you have to bring to the table? Evie.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Kim, for that question. What I want to highlight is an article that was that I read from Fox 40 just this morning, actually. It talked about the Delta and the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors vote. So I don't know if people were aware, but on Tuesday, the San Joaquin County Board of Supervisors declared a state of emergency, citing the imminent threat and potential impact of invasive golden mussels on the Sacramento-San Joaquin Delta. That's going to impact their water systems, agriculture, recreation, and the environment. So it's moments like these that we have to stand up and understand that when it affects the Delta, it affects all of California, because we have so many different agricultural products that come through not only the Delta port, but other ports. But of course, if it's going to affect the Delta ports, it's going to eventually affect the Oakland port. It's eventually going to affect our Los Angeles ports, because there is a domino effect to this. And when we don't take care of some of our local ports, well, it puts added pressure on the other ports, because we all work together to keep this beautiful state going. And if we have a weakness in any part of our chain, we have a weakness in the entire chain. So I think it's important for all of us to do the work necessary to keep our eyes on our ports, because we feed not only California, we feed the nation, we feed the world. And there are billions of dollars that are coming through our ports. I was astounded at how much work these ports bring in to our local economy and to other economies around the world. So it really is important for us to get educated on how much we need our ports to be healthy and how unhealthy some of our ports are.
EB, good. We're having a little bit of feedback on your end with Wi-Fi, EB, but we got exactly what you said. Excellent. Scott, let's pop over to you, and then we'll go right to Clint before Clint has to pop out of the room. Scott Shields.
I'll try to make it quick, Clint. But by the way, hi, EB. It was nice meeting you at the event. And by the way, she's running for lieutenant governor, and she'd be a great one.
Yes, she is.
So I'm going to plug her a little bit.
She's awesome.
Yeah,
she is awesome.
She was a dynamite. She was dynamo there. Anyway, with what she just said, it identifies something that we already know, and Clint knows this, and Dr. Frank knows it, is that bureaucracy is reactive instead of proactive. Okay, we just read what came out about the mussels. Well, we're reacting with legislation now, which something should have happened way before that. So that's lack of collaboration, that's lack of policy, that's lack of collaboration and trust. And so those are the things you have to do as leadership in any, whether it's business or government. You have to be ahead of it. If you're, I think I told you this the other day. If you're, I'm in cyber protection. If you're the Smokey and the Bandit in our day, I know Dr. Frank remembers that. If you're behind the billboard and the bandit runs right by you, you're chasing him, and now something's going to happen, a wreck, you catch him, whatever. But if you are out in front of the billboard, people may slow down. So you have to be in whatever you do, business, and I'm not talking about policing, but regulation, and also business leaders need to get in front together to be ahead of these problems so the cost isn't so high later. With what she just said is happening, it's going to cost a lot of money. Okay, you spend a lot of money when you have to be reactive instead of proactive. So one of the things that caught me there, which I spoke earlier about the economic development policy, I didn't know about, so I won't bring that up. But one thing I already knew, and I identify really, really clear of where the federal government and HHS and President Trump need to get involved here is that, as you mentioned, they grow asparagus. Okay, we have asparagus there. We have cherries. We have walnuts. We have almonds. We have everything grown in this valley. And so there's not a one bullet fixes all. As I spoke as you invited me to the previous Farm Bureau meeting, I met with Bill and Kenny, and they really explained that to me, because I'm from Illinois, where we grow beans and corn, right? And if you create a tariff policy and trade policy, it's so massive, it's easy to do, to make sure that the farmers in Illinois, Iowa, Missouri, and everywhere else in that area, you can make the policy easier. It's very difficult for these farmers, because what may help one farmer hurts another farmer. So there has to be a well thought out policy to help all these farmers based on what they grow. And so
well said. Scott, let's hold that right there for a second. That is beautifully said. Clint, I'm going to pop to you because I've got a minute and a half left with you before you have to leave the space. I'm going to post right now, Clint at clintcurtis.com. Clint, did I get that right? Clint at clintcurtis.com. No. Oh, Clint, let's get you unmuted. It's clintcurtis.com, right?
It's Clint Curtis at clintcurtis.com.
Okay, that's for your email, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And
then your website is
clintcurtis.com.
Okay, clintcurtis.com. All right, clintcurtis.com. I'm going to pop that up here. Clint, why don't you bring this home for us right now in the area of connecting the dots with everything that's been discussed today. Our supervisors, our ROVs, the people that are standing up for election transparency in the state of California. What's your call to action to the ROVs, the supervisors, and the people in this juxtapositioning right now?
Well, everything's available to them. They can see it. It's easy. It's not a problem. But pretty much like Scott said, it's a matter of do they have the desire? Are they going to react, or are they going to sit there until someone yells at them? Probably they're going to sit there until someone yells at them. So you've got to get the public to actually want to rise up and get it fixed, which is kind of what I had to do in Shasta. Shasta, I would not have been successful if both the board and the public weren't on board at the same time, because they kind of have to go hand in hand for it to actually get somewhere. And that's might be what you have, or it might not. We just have to keep up the push.
Okay, I love it. Clint Curtis, now, Clint, you are running for Registrar of Voters Clerk in Shasta County. You are the acting Registrar of Voters Clerk in Shasta County. Shasta County, again, is the epicenter of election transparency. It is the beachhead of Normandy, and we're at war. We've got to keep the beachhead, which means we need you, our listeners, our supporters, our Take Our California Back teams to donate to Clint's campaign. Donate, serve, Get it out to everybody. We've got to make sure Clint has what's needed to go to that next level and win and hold down the fort for election transparency in Shasta County. Clint, thank you for your sacrifice. Thank you for not giving up on us. Thank you for running this race with us. And thank you for showing up and always having a smile when you do so.
Thanks for having me.
An honor. That's ClintCurtis.com. Clint, we're going to release you. And I think Doug might have just popped out, and Doug may have had to go as well. I'm just so grateful we got to have you guys with us today. Clint at ClintCurtis.com. Chris Fish, let's pick it up from where we left off with our last question. And that question was there one moment on the tour where you looked at each other and said, this is why we're running? California's future literally flows from here. And then what's that one solution that you saw? This is what I can take responsibility for and take action in.
You know, this is going to be a weird one. We were talking about transgender issues, and what stood out to me was California birth certificates. That if your birth certificate was issued in California, you don't need a court order. You do not need any proof that you can walk into Vital Statistics and have them change the sex on your birth certificate. That's a national security issue. I can walk in and change from a 60-year-old woman to a 60-year-old man. That's insane. And, we have social security numbers, state ID, all of these things are issued under the sex that we were born under. This is just silly. And that's what hit me most is as everyone was talking, and that really resonated with me, that you can just at will change your identity. That's a security problem.
Wow. It's funny. That's not one of those things that are just those natural connecting the dots things. I really like how you thought through that and you brought that to the table. And that's very, very important. We've got to secure up on every single level. Now, Evie, yeah, on everything. Now, Evie, we got to hear from you. Scott, we got to hear from you. And Chris, we got to hear from you. Now, what I'm going to do right now is Doug had to pop off and Clint had to pop off right now. But I want to go into, we're going to close up with just a couple of key questions. We did touch on how the Delta supplies water to 2/3 of California and farms that feed the nation. Is there a policy right now? What policies right now are strangling our farmers and our water security from what you heard from the leaders at the port in the Delta? And what will you do to fix it? Scott, why don't we pop back up to you?
Yeah, I think it's, I haven't dove into all the regulatory aspects of it, but obviously that's something that has to be addressed. So I've taken a different approach from day one when I started running the candidacy. I'll go ahead and expose it here. It's coming up May. We've got to kind of lay our hand out. We kind of hold what our solutions are a little bit, as you know, in other spaces that are coming out later in May. But this one, I think I can open up right now since this is a topic point. As you know, I brought in Vahan Setyan as my chief of staff. He's a brilliant gentleman, brilliant. And also he has relationships that he and I went and met with the tribal leaders. I actually have I should have wore it today, a nice gift from Crazy Horse's family tree. Okay. And they put leader on me after the meeting. Didn't expect it at all. And Vahan said they've never done this before. So there's solutions on the water situation where we can avoid California's crazy policies and work directly with the federal EPA. And that makes a big difference because the tribal area and the federal area, there's relationships there that are different. Okay. They rely on each other big time. And so we can automatically from day one fund in cooperation with the federal government reservoirs to be built in these areas. They have senior rights of water that can be poured into the reservoirs, and we can put them into the tribal areas. It brings jobs to those areas, and that water then it can bring revenue to those areas for schools. The revenue that comes in can be allocated for specific uses and has to be done for drug prevention, alcohol prevention, education, technology schools, other schools, based on the water from the reservoirs going to the California. So it's not a matter, and I love Greta because she's a scientist and she knows desaltinization can
Yes.
work. I've been involved in fog traps for years, okay, around the world. So I know what can work, but this is the easiest, simplest, fastest solution, okay, that benefits everybody and avoids the regulatory environment where everything is through the lens. So we can definitely do that, and then plus all the other things you have to
Beautiful.
do. But it'll be the catalyst. So right there, now you know, folks. That's why we have that agreement pretty much done. If I'm governor, and the negotiations still have to go into play, and I have to work with Trump and Robert Kennedy. HHS has the second largest funding in the besides the military in the country. And they can be a part of this. The military complex can be a part of this. And it's critical that this happens. And it can happen cost effectively and without all the environmental issues. So
excellent, Scott. Excellent, excellent. So what we're going to do right now, Scott, I love it. Love Vahan as well. What we're going to do is I'm going to give Christine Bish, I'm going to give you a question separate. EB, I'm going to give you a question separate. And then I've got one final question, which will be a short answer for all of you. So Christine, the Port of Stockton is our gateway to the world. What did the port leaders show you about trade, security? Yes, we just touched a little bit on security and the real threats coming through our ports. And how does this tie directly into our border security fight?
You know, it is, it's really the lack of security. Every ship that comes in through the port, they're not inspected. That is something that really stuck out to me.
Wow.
Is what, you know, we know there's a lot of produce and natural resources that come through. And I'm a security hawk. National security hawk. And I start thinking, you know, imagine, you know, we have things coming in from the Middle East and from China, from our enemies that come through that port. Imagine if they were to blow one of those ships up, how devastating that would be to California commerce, shutting that down. And it's not just the Port of Stockton. We start looking at Long Beach and out of the Bay Area. We need one bad actor to rig one of those ships to blow up, and we can cripple the economy. Not just, it'll start in California, but that effect will be staggering.
That's nuts.
And that's one of the sobering things that I got out of that.
Wow. That is
how
that
vulnerable
is
we are.
Concerning, Christine. I did not know that.
That's what it was sobering, how vulnerable we are. And that is exactly why we need to continue being part of a global economy. But the resources that we need, those staple things, whether it is food, medical equipment, pharmaceuticals, the things that Americans need to function day to day, those things need to be manufactured here. Those are, that is our way of life. When we start looking at TVs and extra things, if you will, that's where we start dealing outside the country. Extra produce, stuff that's out of season in the United States. I get that. Shipping our exports out, shipping wood out. But it's not a protectionist standpoint. It's a national security. and everything that entails, and how vulnerable we are at that port and at all of our ports.
Mm. There is a real threat. Thank
There
you
is.
for presenting us to that, Christine Bish.
Thank
That's
you.
important. And I know you're going to be working on your end with legislation to make sure that we are protected and safe. You'll be working closely with those that are in positions to make that happen, correct?
Correct. And I've already authored legislation. We're working with current members of Congress for the Wildfire Act. And that is a bill that I have that's ready to hit committees to be introduced at Congress to get us out of the California FAIR Plan and get us into wildfire insurance it mirrors the national flood insurance, where markets have pulled out.
Yeah.
We saw this in heavy flood areas. We've got fires going on in Georgia. So this is something that gives immediate relief to California, but it serves the entire country. And
Wow.
when I introduce legislation where, my focus is California, this is my home, this is where I'm going to represent,
Yes.
but I want to make sure it's something that serves all of the people, whether it's the immediate relief or California. We know a wildfire, it's not if it's going to happen, it's when
It's
it's going
when,
to happen.
yes,
And
yes,
that everybody pays for that with FEMA relief.
yes.
So, and what we want to do is invest in the security of our forests and that national resource, and protecting it and using national legislation to protect those beautiful forests
Mhm.
and all of the commerce that comes from it.
Yes.
I'm
Very
excited to be
good,
elected.
Christine. Very good. And I love how you said that this can be rolled out nationally. And it's the same thing with election transparency and
Yes.
the additional election security feature that we see the proven model that Shasta County is utilizing. San
Yes.
Joaquin is looking at taking it on. We're talking to Kern, we're talking to Siskiyou, we're talking to Riverside. This is huge that these conversations are happening. And seeing this rolled out to the nation is going to make the
Yes.
difference in the interim of elections that have been stolen. Now, Evie, I'm going to transfer over to you. This question is your question. MAHA, Make America Healthy Again, is not just a slogan. It's food on the table. How does what you saw on that tour of the Delta and the port change how we protect healthy American grown food versus the garbage coming in from overseas and the garbage being grown in the labs?
Well, thank you for that question. Because one of the things that struck me was that we have a lot of agriculture coming from other countries. Now, for those who aren't aware, California has something called CARB, the California Air Resource Board. And CARB regulates a lot of industries in California, and some would say overregulates. However, what I found was that we put a lot of effort, money, time, and restrictions on our businesses here in California. Why? Because we say we want to make sure that we are keeping our people healthy, that we're protecting them from environmental pollutants that we don't want to get into the food supply. And yet we are shipping in all kinds of foods from other countries that do not have carb. They don't have a carb equivalent. So we don't know how they're growing their foods, what type of pollutants and so forth are that they're growing the food with. And we have so many businesses that are paying so much more in order to be compliant. And then we have overseas businesses that don't have to be regulated to the same degree. I don't think that's our business here in California. I don't think it's fair to our people, because if we have a standard for those who are here, who work here, who do business here, who live here, that standard should also be put forth to the people who are doing business with us. So if we're not going to have carb safe food that's going to be shipped in, then we shouldn't ship them in. We should be doing business with Californians, with the farms, the businesses here in the United States. Why? Because they're regulated by us and not by a foreign government. So I would push for us to do more business with our local businesses here first and foremost, because we complain about the, yes, and I do agree there's a lot of overregulation that we need to look at and get rid of, quite a bit of it. But that regulation was set forth with the understanding that we Californians, we who live in the United States, want to make sure we're putting good food, good products into the hands and bodies of our citizens. So that's what I would do. I would make sure that we're doing business here, where we can actually regulate and see what we're putting into our bodies and our homes.
Very important. Very, very important. So good. Final question for the three of you. So Scott Shields running for governor, a Blue Dog Democrat, Chris Bish running for Congress, and E.B. Lynch running for lieutenant governor of the great state of California. Final question today, and I'm so grateful for you guys being here today, is one of the biggest lies in Sacramento is that these issues are too complicated. After that bus tour and this conversation, do you believe we can still save the breadbasket? And if so, how fast? Scott?
Short, quick answer. Absolutely. I mean, it's not a matter of saving it. It's functional now, and it does work, but not for everybody, and that's not good because we need to the San Joaquin Valley needs to be as important as Silicon Valley. I've said this as I go through the valley. I'm in tech, as you know, and it's very important. Technology is not going away, folks. And as you know, Christine, in security, if you're a security hawk, you know the deal. And she's absolutely right on the ports. And again, I don't want to plug a movie, but I didn't know about something, and I know about a lot in security that was identified to me in this documentary done that I mentioned earlier.
The documentary's name again?
It was China Stealth Invasion. And it hit on exactly what you said, Christine, and actually shows and interviews people that are in the know at these ports and how vulnerable we are there, not for bombs, but for surveillance and everything else. I mean, obviously, on the side of bombs, I know nothing about that. But in terms of tech, I do know. And they opened my eyes up to what they've been doing at our ports. And so I'm going to make a strong attack on that myself. But going back to, yes, absolutely. It is the breadbasket of California, the breadbasket of the nation. That's the first priority. It should be local. Californians, as Dr. Frank said, we need to be feeding ourselves in California. Yes. Things grown here before they are brought in, as Christine said so elegantly, out of season products. That's a whole nother program. But we do need a protectionist policy. We have protectionist policies on a lot of things. The San Joaquin Valley needs a protectionist policy. That is the most important ground in America that I saw because of its diversity. California is the size of Iowa to Michigan down to Louisiana. In my area of Illinois and Iowa and all that area, it's corn and soybeans. Okay, but this is a lot of different produce, and we need to protect these individual farmers, the mid-level farmers, and also work with the corporate farmers that are doing the right thing. You have to work with all three layers, and so let's see what happens here. I definitely there's a lot of good people focused on it now. I'm going to do what I can in the private sector, and if I end up as governor, I'm going to do what I can in the public sector.
Love it. I love you guys. I am like jumping for joy inside because I love seeing the Democrats, the Republicans, and the independents, the no party preference working together to come up with real solutions. This is what it's meant to look like. And you all are leading by example. And the Take Our California Back movement across the country, across California, which I believe is going to is going to instigate all of the other, states to do the same thing. I think you guys are thank you for leading by example. Well said, Scott. And let's pop over to you, Miss Evie Lynch, running for Lieutenant Governor. Evie, let's get you unmuted. She might be frozen. Oh,
Yes, Kim, I'm here.
All right. Same question, Evie. Would you like me to represent you?
Yes, please.
All right. One of the biggest lies in Sacramento is that these issues are too complicated. After the bus tour and this conversation, do you believe we can still save the breadbasket, and how fast?
Oh, most definitely, Kim. I say that the only complication is the complication we create. So when people make it their priority to get things done, it gets done. I think it's not about the red, the blue, the gray, the green, whatever. It's about California. It's about our nation. And one nation under God. I really believe that when we decide that we're going to put self-interest aside, wow, the things that we are able to do is just phenomenal. Yes, and we could do that immediately. Let's stop making it about self-interest and about money for our own self, and about really truly protecting the people. If we put that number one mission, we would have had it done a long time ago. So yes, I do believe we can do it. We are doing it. Those who have that in mind, Chris Bish, like Scott, like yourself, Kim, we're doing it right now. We don't care if you're a Republican, a Democrat, an independent. We want if you bring solutions to the table. And yeah,
That's
we're
right.
working with anyone
That's
and
right.
everyone to get it done.
Come on. We're bringing hope. And last but not least, Christine Bish, running for Congress.
Okay, this goes into, we're talking about the Port of Stockton and the food that's coming in. One of the things that we don't know, there just are not security features about what's in the food. And I said this from a national security issue. We had a beautiful dinner banquet. It was all good, healthy, natural food, minimal pesticides. We knew what we were eating. But what's coming in, being shipped in, we don't know. We don't know what the pesticides are. We don't know if it's GMO. We don't know about the fertilizers. And these are all things that go to national security. And I would encourage everyone, when you go to the grocery store, every piece of produce has a sticker on it. And those stickers identify whether it's GMO, whether it's organic or has minimal pesticides, or whether it's a free-for-all. So, people don't know in the grocery stores. We don't have a little chart that says, this is what these stickers mean. And unfortunately, it's a little challenging sometimes educating the public. But we create a market for the poison that's coming in by not being educated about these issues. It's usually whatever's cheapest, not what's best for us.
Right.
But there are long-term costs and consequences. There's always something. And as far as they say it's too hard to fix, no, it's too inconvenient to fix. We all know the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. There are simple solutions to all of our problems. We have complicated will. Who's been paid, who's been bought, and who they have to pay off. That's what's complicated. And, there's probably some legal consequences, what they've been up to on both sides of the aisle. Remember, I'm not anybody's golden child except for the voters, because they know they can trust what I say, and I say what I mean, and I follow through.
Yes. Come on, Chris Bish. Well, California, these are the fighters that we have been praying for. The Delta and Port are not just places on a map. They are the battleground for our future and for the generations to come. Now, Christine Bish, Scott Shields and EB Lynch, I want to say thank you so much, and to all of our Patriots, our Take Our California Back team that was with us, and our other candidates. I want to say thank you for taking time out. I know how busy the weekend was, and we jumped right into the week. Y'all are warriors, and we just love you at Take Our California Back. So we've got your back, you've got our back, and we're going to take our California back.
Thank you, everybody.
Kim, can I just say can I say a quick shout out? Hey, we have the May 17th event. On May 17th, we're rededicating our nation back to one nation under God. So please go onto my website at www.eblynchforcalifornia.com. California spelled out. eblynchforcalifornia.com, and sign up. It's a free attend, and we just want everybody to come out and kumbaya with us so that we can celebrate our nation back to one nation under God. Thank you.
Come on. That's eblynchforcalifornia.com. No space there. eblynchforcalifornia.com. So EB, May 17th, it's going to be at the Capitol in the Rose Garden. I have the privilege of being able to be there and moderating this event. She's a rock star who's putting this together. And if you can't make it to DC, come together in Sacramento. Let's worship, let's pray, let's dedicate this state back to God and this nation back to God. E.B. Lynch, thank you so much. Scott, any final words, or Chris before you jump out?
Thank you all, and whoever's watching, I hope you learned something. We learn something every day, as we did in Stockton and San Joaquin. So thank you, Kim and EB and Chris. You're awesome. I hope people pay attention to you.
Thank you. And everybody out there, regardless where you are, go to bishforcongress.com. It's BISH for Congress.com. And remember, it's time to send a bish to Congress, because I'm just the bish to get things done.
And I love that. And I'm going to, and mine's Shields for governor. I think people can figure that out pretty easy too. But anyway, great job. And you got a great slogan, Chris.
Thank you.
And shieldsforcongress.com, correct?
No, shieldsforgovernor.com.
I don't know where that just came from.
That's all right. You work so hard, Kim.
Shieldsforgovernor.com.
And for everybody listening, nobody puts more time in and energy than Kim. She's done an unbelievable job for other people and for this nation and for California. So great job, Kim.
Thank you. An absolute honor. We got to save this country and save California. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on. I love you guys. Chris, Scott, and EB, God bless you. Thanks so much for being with us today. And I'll talk to you all real soon.
Okay.
Guys, what a privilege. What an honor. These guys are complete rock stars. And they are the ones that, I mean, listen, they aren't the ones that are just hopping on platforms that are telling you what they're going to do. They're showing you. They literally are showing up at the Shasta County Register of Voters office, that county clerk office, to do that walkthrough, to learn election transparency. They're showing up, meeting with leaders in Kern. They're meeting in the Breadbasket with the Farm Bureau, walking the port, walking the Delta, learning from the people that are there what the real issues are. These are the people that you want to step into positions of government to lead you, to give the power back to you, the people. We don't need leaders. We need servant leaders that are leading the people, and those that are willing to put a stake in the ground, not be sold out. That's going to be key. Now, one of the things I want you to just to think about for a second is, you've always said, follow the money, follow the money, follow the money. We've all heard follow the money. We've been following, Nick Shirley, the fraud, and all he did was he started sniffing out where it seemed rotten, and he followed the money, and it led him to the fraud. So we've got to be looking at where that fraud is on every level, and then looking at those candidates that are not receiving the money, that are 3 levels deep from China. And I really want you guys to get this. Look at the PACs. start taking a deeper dive. Where is that money coming in from? Now, the people that are donating that money, go 3 levels deep. Is it coming from China? Are we really being bought out? That's what you got to look at. We need to make sure that we're putting people, candidates in positions that are going to represent the people and that are not going to be bought out and sold out, but they are truly going to be a stand for truth. So with that being said, I want to give a big shout out to my sponsors today. We've got a couple of sponsors on the playing field that really that make what we're doing work. And one of them is our Freedom. This one is our patriotsmade.com. Hang on, I'm going to pull this up. I want to give you guys a visual. Okay, here's the deal. Patriotsmade.com. So if we're going to follow the money and we want to be able to vote with our dollars, and when we saw with our own eyes what happened when we said no to Target, when we said no to what was it, the Bush, or what was it, the alcohol company that was doing the woke advertising, we said, no, we're not going to support you anymore. We're going to actually protest what you're doing. It actually moved the needle. So consider the possibility that we, the people, can move the needle. And we can do that by voting with our dollars. One of the ways that my family made the decision to vote with our dollars, and patriots across the entire globe, Australia, you've got Canada, and all of our freedom-loving Americans, and even those in Germany who said, you know what, I want to buy from a company that shares our values. Well, here in America, we here in America want products that are American made. We heard our candidates touch on this today. Let's bring it back to America. Our Patriots Made resource does just that. It's a manufacturer. USA Today named them America's best brand. Go check them out for yourself. We like to call it the shopping club. Better, safer, less expensive products that gives the power back to you. Everything from no hormones, no antibiotic, black label beef sticks and beef jerky and spices. And I mean, you name it, they've got it, from sunblocks to, to skin cream to the nutrition that shook up the entire nutritional community. You wonder where I get the energy I have? Go to patriotsmade.com. That's patriotsmade.com. You'll be asked if you'd like to watch the video. Say yes. Watch it all the way through to the end. And then one of our team of experts will personally reach out to you and invite you to our virtual tour. Make sure that you have what you need so you can switch stores and we can tailor it according to your needs. That's patriotsmade.com. That's patriotsmade.com. And without further ado, let's pop on over to Freedom Stakes Now. You heard me mention the Patriots Made resource that allows you to tap into, your never ever hormoned or antibiotic beef sticks and beef jerky. Well, what if you could actually tap into never ever hormone or antibiotic black label beef with no mRNA? And what if you could tap into a manufacturer that was the only existing vertical integrated manufacturer? That's what you have here. Our Freedom Stakes Now resource is the bomb diggity. Sheriff Matt called me last night. He's like, Kim, I got to get this out to every single one of my people at the Constitutional Sheriff Peace Officers Association community. We all had beef this weekend. It was the best beef we've ever had. Come on, Sheriff Mac. It is the best beef. I've had beef at the highest level steakhouses and Mar-a-Lago. This beef is going to rock your world. Price point, less expensive than any of the stores in Costco, and it's prime label select. Go get yours today. As a Patriots Made customer, you get to save $50 off your beef every time you shop and $100 in American made products. You can access both sites at freedomstakesnow.com. Cost for freedom. We're going to utilize this one to support our big old bus with Mike Wayman. So you're going to keep our convoys alive. You're going to get the best beef, and you can tap in at freedomstakesnow.com/cost for freedom. All right. And our final words as we close out today's show. Hang on, guys. I'm going to put this banner back up for you. Now, some of you came here today and said, where's Peter Tickton? We were coming to see Peter Tickton. But super cool that you still got to see the candidates, right? And our Take Our California Back team of experts. Well, Peter Tickton had to reschedule, but we rescheduled to Friday morning. So you want to mark your calendars. You want to be here. 10 a.m. we start. We go live. That's 10 a.m. Pacific, 12 p.m. Central, and 3 p.m. Eastern. Peter Tickton is President Trump's attorney. He might even be running for the next attorney general. You want to take a look at that. And he is Tina Peters, our beautiful, amazing sister, who is a political prisoner right now, who stood up for election fraud. Who stood up for me and you. It's the Rosetta Stone of election fraud. We got to get her out. Free Tina Peters. And I'm going to tell you what, Peter Tickton is going to share with us and catch us up to date about all of that. And I'm going to pop up a picture. This is our picture that we took this weekend. We just had a few people that ran on out and said, hey, let's take a picture real quick, with the Tina Peters sign and declare out free Tina Peters. Now, if you did not watch Selection Code, the movie that was made about Tina, you've got to go watch it. You need to understand what's at stake. You can find that at tinapeters.us. tinapeters.us, and keep supporting Tina. That's tinapeters.us. And last but not least, these were your warriors, every single one of them. They weren't all with us today, but these were the warriors that were with us on that Delta and Port bus tour. So you're going to want to start paying close attention to all of their accounts on X, on Rumble, on Facebook, because they're going to continue to share with you their learnings and what they're doing to take California back. So a big thank you to all of our candidates that took part in our Take Our California Back Summit. It was an incredible success. Now, Patriots, that was the deep dive. That's what we needed today. The Delta, the Port, the bus tour wasn't just a tour. It was a wake-up call for the governor and for the governor candidates and every candidate who rode with us. And now it's my wake-up call. It's your wake-up call. From the ballot box to the breadbasket, we see it clearly now. Thank you to our governor and state candidates who joined us today and who stood with us at the summit. California is watching. America is watching. History is being made as we speak. If you want more of the summit and you want to go in the deeper dive with even the interview that we did with Don Bohanna, who was the wrongfully convicted man who was in prison for 25 years, wrongfully convicted for the murder of Michael Jackson's brother Tito's ex-wife. You want to hear this interview. It was so intense because the governor and state candidates got to speak into that as to what they're going to do with prison reform. Go and watch that. You can find all of these shows. It'll be up today at takeourcaliforniaback.com. Takeourcaliforniaback.com. Stay updated. Click stay updated as well so that we can keep you abreast as to what's next. You can also find all of our shows and our show today at takeyourcaliforniaback.com. Takeyourcaliforniaback.com. And the takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's right. When you go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com, you'll always access our lives. You'll access our Rumbles and our Apple Podcasts. You can find everything there at takeyourpowerbackshow.com. And my final words today, you are keeping freedom alive. You are keeping election transparency alive by supporting us, by donating. And you can donate today at takeourcaliforniaback.com. That's takeourcaliforniaback.com. Donate, become one of our sponsors. And again, to all of our sponsors like Chris Bish, Daniel Mercury, our treasurer, running for treasurer, Jennifer Hawks, to A Biblical Voter, to Parallel 8 Media, to our Chula Vista Live Data, To all of our live streamers that dug in with us. A big shout out to Charlie at Do Not Talk Charlie, Matthew Kennedy, Ramin at Real Talk, and his beautiful wife. Guys, we're so grateful for you. And Epoch Times. Epoch Times put out some amazing articles, you guys. Go check it out on my X at Real Kim Yater. Go check it out on my Rumble, on my Facebook. And with that being said today, share this episode. Tag, subscribe, get it out to everybody you know. This is it, guys. We're at the final stretch before the primaries. Get ready to vote. Reach out to 10 people that you know and say, let's show up together at the polls. Let's go vote on election day. If you need to vote early, just wait until the day before. Don't vote too early. Show up at the polls. Make it a special day. Celebrate with your community. Have a party at your home. Have a convoy to the ballot box where you can go and vote and get involved. Get involved on a precinct level. Volunteer. Reach out to the communities to volunteer. And a big thank you to even our inner teams that take our California back and Election Integrity Project California. Ruth Weiss, we want to say a big thank you. Lisa, for reaching out to all of the supervisors. Rhonda Provost. Guys, there's so many people I could say thank you to. And I am so grateful. Because of you, we've joined forces to take California back. I absolutely love you. And what I get to do right now is an absolute privilege and honor. So to close out today, from the breadbasket to the ballot box, it's all connection. It's all connected. Let's secure it. I'm Kim Yater, signing out with the Take Your Power Back show. May God bless you. May God bless California. May God bless the United States of America. I love you. God bless you. And I'll see you all on Friday at 10 a.m. with Peter Tickton, because we are taking our California back. See y'all on the other side. Bada, 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 boom, and bada. Close it on out. Bing.
Thank you for joining us for the Take Your Power Back show. As Peak Performance Breakthrough Coach Kim Yater speaks to other freedom-loving Americans that are making a positive impact in the world by standing in truth amid adversity. Listen in weekly and learn how to take your power back in your freedom, in your personal and professional life, in technology and creativity, and in your faith. Be encouraged, be inspired, be transformed as you step into your power and take action in your leadership and allow your voice to be heard. Together, let's take your power back. To sponsor and support the Take Your Power Back show, go to takeyourpowerbackshow.com. That's takeyourpowerbackshow.com and take your power back.